One rainy night in Chicago, a teenage girl was accused of stealing a car, a dream she could only stare at. That moment changed everything. Years later, she returns. Same street, same man, same crimson Lamborghini. But this time, the keys are in her hands. Support Black Journey by subscribing. Let's hit 1,000 subscribers together. The afternoon sun blazed over downtown Chicago, turning the skyscrapers into golden mirrors. The air buzzed with the chaos of horns, chatter, and the rhythm of hundreds of footsteps hitting the pavement. Amid that sea of noise and color, Zariah Williams stood still. A 17-year-old girl from the South Side, her dark curls tucked into a frayed hoodie, a half-empty sketchbook under her arm, and dreams far bigger than the blocks she came from. She was waiting for the bus after a long day at her part-time job. Her shoes were worn thin, and her backpack strap had been fixed with duct tape. But as she stood there, something across the street caught her eye, something that made the world around her fade into silence. There it was, a crimson-red Lamborghini Aventador, parked by the curb like a fire-breathing dragon among pigeons. Its body gleamed under the light, reflecting the world in liquid red. Its curves were perfect, its design alive. Zariah's heart stuttered. She had seen cars like that on posters, on YouTube videos, in the kind of neighborhoods she cleaned offices in, but never this close. Drawn as if by gravity, she crossed the street. The city's noise returned but faintly, like a distant memory. She stopped just a few feet away from the car. The reflection of her face appeared on its shining door. Brown skin, curious eyes, determination mixed with exhaustion. For a moment, she smiled. "One day," she whispered, "I'll have one just like you. Maybe not red, maybe black or gold, but mine." The wind carried her words away, but her soul heard them. Then, out of nowhere, a harsh voice sliced through her moment. "Hey, what are you doing near my car?" She jumped. A man in a navy blue suit was walking toward her, fast. He was in his 40s, tall, white, his hair slicked back, his wristwatch gleaming like authority. Zariah froze. I wasn't doing anything," she stammered. "I was just looking—" He cut her off with a sharp tone. "Looking? Yeah, sure. That's what they all say. You trying to steal it?" The words hit her like a slap. People nearby began to slow down, watching. A woman stopped to stare. A man pulled out his phone. "No, sir," Zariah said quickly, her voice trembling. "I wasn't touching it. I promise." He stepped closer, eyes full of suspicion. "You kids think you can just walk up to anything nice and take it, huh?" Zariah's throat tightened. "Sir, I didn't—" "Don't lie to me," he snapped. "You think I don't see what's going on? You're casing it, waiting for me to walk away. You probably have friends around the corner." She looked around helplessly. No one stepped in. Some people whispered. Someone laughed quietly. Her hands shook. "Please, I'm not a thief." The man crossed his arms, his voice dripping with disdain. "Yeah, sure. That's what they all say. Now step away before I call the police." Those words made her chest tighten. She could feel everyone's eyes on her. In that moment, Zariah wished she could disappear. She stepped back, blinking fast to stop her tears, but they came anyway, hot, humiliating, unstoppable. The man muttered something under his breath. She didn't catch it, but she heard the word trouble. She turned and ran. Her backpack bounced against her back, her shoes slapped the concrete, and her heart pounded louder than the city. She didn't stop running until she reached a quiet street far away. There, behind an alley near a convenience store, she finally let herself cry. The kind of cry that comes from somewhere deep. Not just pain, but injustice. I wasn't doing anything, she whispered to herself, her voice shaking. Why'd he look at me like that? Like I wasn't supposed to dream? When she got home that night, her mother was already asleep from her shift at the diner. The apartment was small, the wallpaper peeling. Zariah sat by the window, watching the city lights flicker like stars trapped in glass. Her tears dried slowly. Anger replaced them, not the kind that burns out fast, but the kind that builds something new. One day, she said again, her voice steady this time, one day I'll have one, and when I do, nobody's gonna call me a thief. She took out her sketchbook and began to draw. Not the car, but herself behind the wheel. The headlights were blazing and her face looked strong, fearless. It wasn't just a dream anymore. It was a promise. That night, Zariah Williams made a vow. She would rise above the accusation. She would outwork every doubt. And someday, when the world saw her again, it would see her driving her own crimson-red Lamborghini Aventador, not stealing it, owning it. The next morning, Zariah woke before sunrise. Her eyes were swollen from crying, but her mind was clear, sharper than ever. She looked at the sketch she'd made the night before, her behind the wheel of a crimson-red Lamborghini Aventador. For the first time, she didn't see it as impossible. She saw it as a destination. That day, she decided to start working toward it. 1 hour, $1, one dream at a time. She picked up extra shifts at the diner where she waited tables after school. The manager often called her kid, sometimes sweetheart, but rarely noticed her beyond the coffee she poured. Still, she smiled through it. Every tip, even a single dollar, went into a worn glass jar she labeled "For My Future." When she wasn't working, she studied. Her favorite subject had always been mechanics, how engines moved, how metal came alive when power met precision. She watched endless tutorials online, scribbling diagrams in her notebook, learning every part of an engine's soul. Sometimes, during breaks, she'd sit behind the diner and watch cars pass. Old ones, new ones, broken ones. She'd whisper to herself, I'll fix them. I'll learn everything about them until I can build my own. Her mother, Danielle Williams, noticed the change. You've been working too hard, baby, she said one night, rubbing Zariah's shoulders. I have to, Mama. I want more than just surviving. I know, Danielle said softly, but don't forget to live while you chase it. Zariah smiled faintly. Living, she thought, is chasing it. Months turned into years. Zariah turned 19 and enrolled in a community college engineering program, working part-time at a small auto repair shop after classes. The shop owner, Mr. Rodriguez, was a tough old man with grease-stained hands and a heart bigger than he'd admit. He saw her potential immediately. You got good eyes, he told her one day. You see what's wrong with a car before anyone says a word. That's rare. She grinned, wiping oil off her hands. Maybe because I see myself in broken things, she said. He chuckled. Then you're gonna fix a lot in this life. And she did. She saved, learned, failed, and started again. Her friends partied, Zariah worked. While others bought shoes and phones, she bought wrenches and textbooks. Every setback reminded her of that day on Fifth Avenue, of the man's accusing eyes. Each time she heard his voice in her head, You trying to steal it? She whispered back, No, I'm earning it. The more she worked, the more she fell in love with the process. She began designing her own dream car sketches, futuristic, elegant, powerful, her initials ZW on the hood. By 20, she was known around campus as the girl who never quits. Zariah still had no Lamborghini. She still rode buses, sometimes walked in the rain. But every night when she looked at her reflection in a bus window, she saw something new. the woman she was becoming. The grind wasn't easy, but it was shaping her into something unstoppable, because Zariah Williams no longer wanted to prove that she could own a car. She wanted to prove that she could build her destiny. By the time Zariah Williams turned 20, her life was running like an overworked engine, fast, hot, and barely holding together. Days at college, nights at the repair shop, and weekends waiting tables. She told herself it was worth it, that every drop of sweat was a down payment on her dream. Then came the call that would change everything. She was in the garage, elbows deep in a dusty Ford engine, when her phone rang. Her mother's voice wasn't there, only the nurse's. "Your mother collapsed at work. She's in the hospital." The wrench fell from Zariah's hand. The sound echoed like thunder. The next few weeks blurred into exhaustion and fear. Her mother, Danielle, had been diagnosed with severe heart problems. The bills stacked up faster than she could earn. Her savings, the jar she'd been filling for years, disappeared within days. Zariah tried to hold everything together, but cracks began to show. She missed classes, skipped meals, worked longer hours. Every time she opened her sketchbook, her hands trembled. At night, she sat beside her mother's hospital bed, whispering prayers between machine beeps. "You're gonna be okay, Mama. I'll take care of it. I'll fix everything." Danielle would smile weakly. "Baby, you can't fix life like an engine." "Watch me," Zariah would whisper back. But deep down, she was scared, not of failing, but of losing the one person who believed in her. One night, after another long shift, Zariah stood outside the hospital parking lot. Her uniform smelled like grease and sweat. The city lights shimmered through her tears. She looked down at her hands, the same hands that could rebuild an engine, but couldn't stop life from breaking apart. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the last few crumpled bills she had left. Barely enough for groceries, let alone tuition. "For the first time in years," she whispered. "Maybe they were right. Maybe I was never meant for that kind of life." The doubt hit harder than any insult. Just then, her phone buzzed. A message from Luis, a classmate from her auto program. "Hey, Z, I heard about your mom. I'm sorry, but listen, you're the best mechanic I've ever seen. Why don't you start your own shop? People trust you. You can do this." Zariah stared at the message for a long time. Her reflection shimmered on her phone screen, eyes red, face tired, but a small spark still glowing in the dark. "My own shop," she murmured. The idea sounded impossible, but so did surviving that day on Fifth Avenue, and she'd done that. The next morning, Zariah walked into Mr. Rodriguez's garage and asked to buy the old tools he no longer used. He laughed at first, then saw the fire in her eyes and handed them over. "You're really going to do this, huh?" "Yes," she said, "even if I have to build it from the ground up." That week, in an empty lot under an overpass, Zariah's garage was born. One toolbox, one light bulb, one dream. The breaking point didn't destroy her. It forged her. 5 years later, the city of Chicago looked different. Or maybe it was Zariah Williams who had changed. The streets she once walked felt smaller now, quieter. The skyline still shimmered, but this time, the light didn't feel out of reach. It reflected off the polished hood of her own crimson-red Lamborghini Aventador, purring like victory as it rolled down Fifth Avenue, the very street where her story had begun. The car gleamed under the sun, its engine humming a deep, confident rhythm. People turned their heads as she passed, drawn by the impossible contrast of luxury and youth, of power and calm. Zariah wore a tailored black jumpsuit and gold aviators, her curls shining in the breeze. She wasn't the scared 17-year-old girl who had once been accused of stealing. She was Zariah Williams, entrepreneur, mechanic, and owner of Zariah's Garage, now one of the fastest-growing auto repair and design businesses in Chicago. Her success had not come easy. Every scar on her hands, every sleepless night, every tear shed over her mother's hospital bed had built the woman she had become. Danielle's health had improved, and she now managed the garage's small office, proud, radiant, and alive. As Zariah slowed at a red light, she noticed something familiar on the sidewalk. A man in a navy blue suit, gray now streaking his hair, checking his watch impatiently. Her heart stopped. It was him, the man from years ago, the one who had looked at her like she was nothing. He glanced up, eyes catching on the car. For a moment, admiration flashed in them, then confusion, then recognition. She lowered her window. The cool air brushed her face. "Beautiful car, huh?" she said, voice calm and steady. The man blinked. "It's incredible. I used to have one just like it." Zariah smiled slightly. "Yeah, I remember." He squinted, studying her face. Then his eyes widened. "Wait, you're that girl from Fifth Avenue," she finished for him. "Yeah, that was me." He looked speechless. The memory seemed to hit him. The accusation, the crowd, her tears. Shame flickered across his face. I'm sorry," he managed. "I didn't know." "You didn't have to," Zariah said, her tone gentle but firm. "You just had to see me differently." Silence hung between them, not angry, just full of unspoken truth. Then the light turned green. Zariah put her sunglasses back on, her hand resting confidently on the wheel. "I wasn't trying to steal your dream," she said softly. "I was just learning how to build mine." The engine roared to life. The Lamborghini surged forward, sunlight dancing off its red body as it disappeared into the horizon. For a moment, the city seemed to bow to her, the skyscrapers gleaming like trophies, the streets whispering her name. Zariah smiled, feeling the weight of her past lift. She wasn't running anymore. She wasn't proving anything. She was simply driving her destiny. Life may accuse you before it knows your story, but your strength writes the ending. Subscribe to Black Journey, join our family, and let's inspire the world. Together, let's hit 1,000 subscribers.